right, guys. So with us today, we have Micah Wilson. Micah's a friend, a client. We met a couple of years ago through my brother, Doug, in the coffee shop. And I can't tell you how many friends I have now from the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Indie Coffee Roasters, big shout out.
Yep.
Rivet Coffee Roasters, big shout out. You know, we make good relationships there. It's a good place.
It is.
So, so Micah, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Doug's a good guy too.
Doug is a great guy.
One of my favorite people.
If I can get him to not be so humble and come on the podcast and talk about himself, I'm trying right now. He'll listen to this one too and then hear this. So calling him out, get him on. He's got a lot of wisdom to share.
I love it.
So cool. Well, let's jump in. Who's Micah Wilson? Tell us your story. Who you are and what you're about.
Yeah.
Go from there.
That's a interesting question. It's not an interesting question, but it's there's a lot of different ways I could take it.
Yeah.
I grew up a missionary kid. I don't know if you knew that or not. But
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah. My parents were missionaries in Austria, so we weren't really roughing it, but we lived in Vienna for 7 years.
Wow.
So age 7 to 14, kind of my formative years of growing up, we lived in Vienna, which was awesome. That to me is home. Even though I was born here, that there's little things that just when I think of home, I think of that.
Really? So you said ages 7 to 14?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so those really would have been formative years. What about it is home to you? Like what makes you, when you think of home, what makes you think of Vienna?
Yeah. So maybe a good food.
Okay.
My mom happened to be just traveling there not too long ago and brought me back this roll kind of called a Zemmel. And it's basically just a roll with a star shape in it. Okay. And like that to me just brought back memories of being able to eat that. And yeah, it was a little stale because it had been a minute since she had traveled back. But
worth it, though.
So worth it.
Yeah.
I'd say maybe the culture, too. I mean, I think a lot of who I am was shaped by my upbringing there. Mm-hmm. And I had friends from all over the world. I went to an international school. Yeah. And so it gave me a different world perspective. Mm-hmm. When I was hanging out with kids in middle school now, they're worried about their clothes. They're always worried about what everybody else is thinking of them. And that's pretty much kids in general, and people in general. But something about growing up in Europe, that wasn't the case. Where we were, because we had such different cultures, we were always, I would say, you had a more of an open view of people that weren't like you. And so we were talking more about what was going on in their culture rather than the clothes they were wearing.
Well, and you're not old, but do you think that could have been the difference in time frame too, as to when you were growing up there versus the culture of today, maybe?
Maybe very different now. Obviously, it's been a long time since I haven't been back since I was 14, so I'm sure it's different now. Everything is different now, but
that's pretty cool though.
It was definitely because I would come home, and my friends, they didn't, even though I would say they were still very American, very caught up in the music, caught up in
kind of pop culture.
Current trends, and which nothing against that or them, but that was just the situation for me, I guess.
Yeah. So Vienna, Austria, it's not a poor area, right?
No.
So why would a missionary go to Vienna, Austria?
So my parents were on staff with Young Life.
Oh, okay.
And they were the area directors for Eastern Europe. And so Young Life, if you're not totally familiar, if those listeners aren't familiar with what it is, it's a adolescent ministry that is very relational. So they get to know students first by earning their trust and just being invested in their lives. Mm-hmm. Going to their sporting events, going to whatever they've got going on in their lives, whether it's theater or just being around and caring for them first. Yeah. Then basically earned the right to be able to share the love of Jesus with them. And so then they would have what's called clubs, which is like a big party. And then as you grew in that. Then they would go into what was called campaigners, which is basically a Bible study.
Yeah.
And so my parents started a lot new Young Life clubs in Eastern Europe.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Man, that's cool.
Yeah.
So with them doing that, did you ever feel slighted that your parents were spending more time with other kids, or
never?
No.
I'd say we did ministry together,
Okay.
and that they were home, we were around, we'd go on trips together. We got to just experience everything they were doing together.
Yeah.
So while they were investing in other people's lives, we always had people in our home.
You were a part of it. You weren't just
right.
coming alongside.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Would you ever move back there, you think?
I would. I don't know if my wife would, but the kids are, still in high school. And,
yeah. And be a ways off.
Yeah.
Man, I have a friend's dad who lives, he lived in Portugal for a time, and then I think now he lives not in Austria, but somewhere up in that northern European area somewhere, but lives from a RV, I think.
Oh, cool.
That'd be awesome. It would be pretty cool. Yeah. I still haven't made it over there. I'd love to go explore Europe a little bit.
It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would love to go back. I'd love to be able to take my family and be able to show them all the places that we went. And, yeah.
That's cool. Interesting thing, fun fact, most of the cloth mills for fine clothing and whatnot are still, they're in Europe because of the water source there.
Huh.
Yeah. Something about the water helps the fabric, stay soft and become very durable too, which is interesting. So,
right.
Just a little fun fact.
Interesting. I wonder if they put fluoride in there.
Probably not. That's probably why the water's still so good up there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that they don't allow up there that they allow here in America.
Yeah.
Fluoride being one of them.
Yeah.
Pesticides of all sorts, and the processed foods we eat. Over there, you don't have to buy organic. And actually, the organic foods are cheaper.
Right.
Because it's normally, it's grown.
It's better for you.
Yeah, it's better for you, and it's grown from the ground like it should be, instead of processed, put into boxes. And they do have stuff like that over there, I'm sure. But yeah, it's pretty baffling what the USDA and FDA allow here. But it's not about what's healthy for you. It's about what lines their pockets. So yeah. Yep. Anyways, we're going down a rabbit hole. We can go to that one another time. Yeah. So tell us more about you and your family.
Yeah. So grew up all over the place, moved around all the time. Pretty much, we moved at least every 3 years, and so
Through Europe, or
just before I graduated from high school, we pretty much moved every 3 years.
Okay.
So then ended up finishing or going to college. Out east for a little bit, went to Gordon College for a few years, studied outdoor rec. I always thought I would be leading trips in the wilderness.
Really?
That was my passion, and love to get people away from concrete and kind of give them a reboot. I'm trying to think how to condense the story.
And don't worry about it. Just go for it.
Yeah. Saw this beautiful blonde chasing out after her dog on a golf course while visiting my dad in Noblesville one day, July 9th, 2000. And so met my wife. Her mom lived 2 doors down from my dad. And
that's funny.
We met in the backyard, fell in love in the spot. It does happen.
Yeah.
And so then we spent the rest of the summer together. She moved out to Oregon. She's also an outdoors person and loves the wilderness. And she was planning on living there, but I hadn't finished college yet, so she came back for me to finish school. Went to Heron School of Art for a couple of years, studied graphic design.
Okay.
But ended up getting my degree from Indiana Wesleyan in business management. And then...
So you studied arts and design at Heron, but didn't finish that degree?
Didn't finish there, yep.
Okay, interesting.
And then went a totally different direction and went to business management instead with Indiana Wesleyan.
Because that's a pretty big shift, right, from outdoor rec, arts and design, business.
Yeah.
It goes from really, really colorful to boring.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. I think a lot of it was feeling like I wanted to be able to provide and take care of my family. And my wife and I were getting married. We got married in 2002. think about having a family and just the stability that provided. And so
it's not a bad thing by any means. Yeah.
No.
Do you feel like you've been able to marry the passion you had for the arts and outdoor recreation now with business in any way?
Definitely. Looking back, it's pretty wild to look at all of the different channels or different paths that I've taken, and where I don't use them full time, but like nothing's ever been wasted.
Yeah.
And grateful for all the different little pieces that have allowed me to kind of shape what I'm able to do now, and maybe I think opens up doors for me to be able to do things better, a little more greater perspective of whatever it is I'm working on. So, for example, while my wife and I are in youth ministry, I also have a design background, so I can do a website. I can help with the branding, the marketing, and while I didn't do this brand, a lady on our board did it for us, which she did an amazing job on it.
Simple, clean, looks good.
And there's actually a lot more in it than the more you look at it. There's a lot more symbolism in it. But
I want to come back to that, so don't let me forget. But I want you to explain. I want you to walk us through that logo.
Yeah. I don't know where I was going, but I would say.
Oh, well, marrying everything together. You had the arts the background, design background, business.
Right. And there were times in my life when I was solely in business, but I felt miserable, or there were times when I was just doing graphic design, but it just wasn't, or as financially stable, or while I've never been able to just lead trips in the wilderness, we get to kind of do all of that right now, which has been really, really cool.
Yeah. And that's with Base Camp, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just jump into that.
Yeah.
Tell us about the logo, and then tell us more about Base Camp.
Okay. So the logo itself.
Braden, are you able to pull that up by chance?
Better for her to be explaining like why she put everything into it the way she did.
Okay.
But we're not just an outdoors ministry. There's kind of the tent to it.
Yeah.
But then there's a faith aspect, which is where the cross comes in.
Yeah.
And then the lines that are the rays that are above it there's 12, and just kind of referencing the 12 disciples, and then people that have gone before us that we can learn from, and then also what are we called to in life. And so the main goal and mission of Base Camp is to help primarily high school students figure out their identity in Christ and how God wants to use them and the gifts and the talents that they've given them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. Obviously, there needs to be more of that in schools, right, and in education for kids. How are you guys helping them find that?
Not so much directly through, say, school, but let's see, how are we helping them do that? Again, it's similar to like what my parents are doing with Young Life, in that it's relational and getting to know kids and helping them understand that it's okay for them to be different, that they don't have to match everything that their friends are doing, but that each person has their own gifts and talents and things that they're passionate and excited about. And oftentimes, like when you ask somebody, what do you think your purpose is, or what do you feel like why are you here? Most people don't know how to answer that.
No.
And the way I always try to explain it to a student is, what are the things that you just love doing? What are the things that get you excited, that your heart starts racing a little bit faster, that you can't stop thinking about it? And I think those are the things that God wants to use in your life for your purpose, to use. He doesn't want you to be bored. He doesn't, and neither do we. So why do we go after things that aren't life-giving?
You know why? Pay the bills, right?
Right.
And that's what's so tough about our culture, because then we also have materialism pounded into our heads as well. So if we don't have the car, the Rolex watch, the nice house, we're not successful in the world's eyes. And that's something I had to struggle with too. Like with starting businesses, I took a big step back financially, And I had put all my self-worth in, my production. My production was who I was. How much I provided for my family was who I was. But I wasn't happy. No matter how much I made, I was not happy. And, like happiness is a feeling. So I'm not gonna stay stuck on that. It's like, okay, I got to do what I got to do to provide for my family. And at a time, I needed to provide, And then I got to a point where I had a great plan to exit and had enough put away that I could do that and get enough to pay my bills and break even at least. And, through all of that, I still probably up until 6 months to a year ago, I struggled with like knowing or struggled with the financial aspect of it, because I'm like, man, I was doing this at a young age and like now I'm doing this. Will I ever get back to that? But then I realized that I've literally done what most people want to do. And that's set up my life the way I want to live it. Not have to be constantly focused on work, but that's the cool thing, because I constantly am focused on work, because that's it's what I love to do. And I think more people need to go down that path of pursuing what they love and what God wired them to do, because that's the design he gave you to serve other people, right?
Yeah. And I think when you're able to do something without it draining you, then that's usually a good indicator that you're doing the right thing.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Yeah. That's cool. So do you see kids in base camp from like all over the board, as far as, the jocks, the nerdy kids, the musicians, the artists?
Yeah, all of it.
You see it all over the board?
Yeah.
That's cool. How many people do you have a part of base camp right now?
It kind of depends on what we're doing in a particular day. So every Thursday morning, and that's just now wrapping up as the school year's ending, but we basically go into the school and we'd have Jack's Donuts, and we would meet in one of the teachers' rooms. We have these cards that have different questions on them. There's simple questions like, what's your favorite color, to is it ever okay to lie? Yeah. Or is there any, like, it can either be really more of a thought-provoking, deeper question, or it can be something that's very simple and light, and where's your favorite vacation? Yeah. But every card is different, and so each kid gets a card. They kind of know the program. When they come in, they just start grabbing cards and then grab a donut. We go around, say our name, our grade, because there's different grades, but it's just high school. Yeah. And then they get to share a little bit about their life and get to know each other that way. And then we'll throw out, once everybody gets a chance to do that, just one question that we all kind of chew and discuss and talk about for a little bit before school starts. Something like this week, it was, how are you going to maximize your summer? How are you going to take advantage of the time you have and not waste it and make the most of it? Or it could be, one is like, what is the definition of successful? Oh, and so we spent some time kind of going through a lot of different opinions. If it's about how much money you're making, a different title, status in life. Yeah. And it was cool. And what we're always trying to do is help them perhaps gain a little perspective on, it may not be what you've learned through your peers, through school, or even at home. We live in an area that is very, what's the word? Not driven, but
affluent. Maybe.
Well, it's very affluent, and then also success-driven, achievement based. Yeah.
Well, and you're seeing more and more Ferraris and Lamborghinis out on the roads in Carmel, Indiana.
Yeah, yeah. We do. We live in a very privileged place, which is awesome. But it also, kids don't feel like they perhaps need very much, or they definitely don't feel like they always need God, because they've got everything they need. But so we're always trying to open their eyes to maybe something that they're not seeing in their sphere, in their world. And we have more kids aren't just coming from Carmel. They come from north of Indy, which is cool too. Like, you're getting other people together and allow them to see more than just, their neighbors and who they have in school. But.
So this is similar to Young Life in a sense. Yeah. So, what inspired you to start base camp?
Yeah. A couple different things. I was actually on staff with Young Life for a little bit and loved what I was doing with the students, and that didn't work out. And so my wife and I just felt led, like we didn't want to give up on ministry. We didn't want to lose basically this calling on our life and our family. And so we decided to go ahead and start our own thing, our own not-for-profit called Base Camp 29:11, after Jeremiah 29:11.
What is that verse?
It's the verse about, I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And so that's what we want to do with these kids, is help them figure out who they are, that God loves them, and that he does have a plan for them, for their life, and they can enjoy it. So that's why we started Base Camp. And there's a men's version of it, too, that I had started with a buddy of mine back in 2010 or so, which is very similar to what we do with students in that for the men, we get together every week, and we throw out a question usually a couple days before, and super simple as well, but we keep the format open so that guys can come and go as they want. They don't have to feel like, oh, they're studying something, I'm not going to have any clue what's going on. And it's pretty much just about helping men be the best version of themselves.
That's cool.
How to be better dads, better husbands, and some guys aren't married, and so just where are you at in life, and how are you maximizing what you've been given, and finding your own purpose in life. But that one isn't necessarily tied into the not-for-profit. The student one, Base Camp 29:11, is the not-for-profit. And the thing that sets us apart from some of the other parachurches that are out there and from Young Life is that we want to help kids out with some basic life skills also. So this summer, we're going to be doing some workshops where we're going to be teaching kids how to change a tire, how to jumpstart a car, how to grill, how to budget.
So these are things that fathers teach, right? Which I think is really cool, because it sounds like it's a place where, like, fathers who are already teaching their kids these sorts of things can also have other people who are expertises in different areas teach other things. But are you seeing that a lot of kids that are coming into this don't have dads or don't have present dads?
Yeah. You know, what's funny about it is it's most, I think, because I'm a dad of 3, sometimes we forget to teach these things. You know, we forget to make it a priority. It's like, hey, like last night I was grilling and I asked my son to go out and turn the grill off, and he just turned them down. He didn't actually turn them off. And so he was somewhere else, and I said, hey, buddy, come here. You gotta learn how to do this right so you know how to do it. And he didn't want to do it, but I was like, come on. It's funny because now they know. Kind of, this is part of our program with Base Camp, is like, no, we're helping you with life skills. And they're like, I don't want to learn a life skill right now. I was like, well, I'm sorry. This is a good time to do it.
Sorry.
Yeah, come on. Just come to take 2 minutes and to show them, you know, how to turn it off at the propane, and then it shuts off all of it, cleans the lines out, and kind of, you don't have to go into a big explanation of it, but now he knows how to do it.
I got a funny grill story for you. Not to you know, digress here, but
I almost blew myself up once.
Well, so that's where this story's going. It was not me who almost blew myself up, though. Okay, apparently my wife hadn't been taught how to turn a grill on and off. And we were at our old house, and we had a big side-by-side, like, propane charcoal smoker ordeal, and pretty cool grill. And I said, hey, honey, can you go turn on the grill? Well, I don't really know how to, but, you know, just tell me what I need to do. Cool. So turn the propane on, turn the burners on, you know, hit the ignite button, and you're good to go. Cool. So she does that. I think I probably went up to shower or something like that. It was after work. We were having people over. And so I come out, and I'm get the grill on. Yep, it's cool. So I take the meat out there, and I open up the thing, and I go, it's not hot. There's no flame. Like, you didn't turn on the grill. And I'm like, what? There's no fire. Okay. Yeah. And I hit the igniter. Tick, tick, boom! Yeah. Oh, my gosh. I saw my life flash before my eyes. I, jumped back, singed all the hair on my face, the hair on my arms. Yep. And she heard it and was like, what happened? I'm like, you tried to freaking kill me. Other words were definitely used in that. So I taught my wife how to turn on the grill that day, and luckily it hasn't happened since. But it was a good life experience for me. So I'm definitely teaching my kids how to do this.
Yeah, and in the right time, and you know, how to mow, how to use different tools, power tools, and how to. There's so many things that, unless we're thinking about it, we don't think to bring our kids into it, to share it with them.
And because we're moving at such a fast pace as a society too. Right. It's not like we're living on a farm like in the 1800s where it's like, boy, you're coming along with me because you got to learn how to do this to survive.
Right.
And while a lot of that is good, it's making us soft and it's making us unintentional with our children and with, really just in life in general.
Yeah.
So I guess that leads me to another question here what do you see being the biggest issue in, the youth of today? I know I have I know what it is in the millennial generation,
right.
But what do you see with, what generation are we on? It's not Gen Z, is it?
I think I'm Gen X. I'm
you're
45.
Gen X. I'm millennial. Braden, are you Gen Z? He's like, I don't even know.
I don't know.
Yeah, one of those.
Here.
It doesn't matter. I guess we don't need labels, but the kids that are in high school today, the kids that are in late middle school, going into college, like whatever that generation is, what do you see being the biggest issue right now, or the biggest cultural issue with them?
Yeah, I would say not laziness, but so I'm not a fan of AI. I'll just say it. Even I'm a graphic designer, but I'm not a fan because it is causing us as a culture to be lazy.
Yeah.
And I love some of the memes of, we could cripple an entire generation if we just went back to manual stick shifts and writing cursive. And
it'd be over.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of things, everything we do these days are like, how can we simplify our lives? And yes, there are some benefits because it gives you time back. It will, it allows you to do other things you want to do. But I also keep just asking, like, did not anybody ever watch Terminator?
Or The Matrix.
We are going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, well, and it blows me away because all of these movies, if you look back, there was a movie made, I think, in the late 90s about a virus that was going to get released into the world, and then the rich people, whoever they were, had the compound to cure everybody, but then they wouldn't, it was there. And actually, no, it was I think it was a Jack Carr book.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to go back and figure out what this book was now. Anyways,
yeah.
But yeah, it's like we're predicting these things in the future.
Right.
In books we're writing 10, 20 years prior.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but, I would say to answer your question, social media is tough. Because they can see. They're always comparing themselves to, and I tell my kids all the time, what are you doing? You're basically living your life watching somebody else's life.
Right.
Go do your own thing. Go make your own, and don't necessarily record it. You go and just go do it. Yeah. Make your own memories and be your own person.
Well, be the hero of your own story, right? Like we are all designed to be the heroes in our own story, and when we're not pursuing that, then
or we're trying to carbon copy somebody else's story. Trying to mimic and sometimes it's good to have heroes. It's good to have role models. I'm put it that way.
Right.
That in most kids, I saw it the other day, kids don't know who they are. And so it's okay to kind of look to somebody for direction, but then put your own spin on it. Don't just try to do exactly what they're doing.
Well, and ask yourself, do you really want to follow this person's direction?
Yeah.
Because you look at some of these, I'd call them charlatans, a lot of them, Braden and I were talking about this earlier, is a lot of these guys are charlatans. Like, have they really done anything? Maybe, maybe not. There are many who have. But then there's many that haven't, and they're preaching on how to live your life, how to say, it's like a sales consultant trying to sell me on a package to let them consult me on how to sell.
Yeah.
What have you sold? Well, I've sold sales consulting. I just came out of college. Why don't you go sell a few products, maybe work for a few companies, and then we'll talk.
Yeah.
And
go fail.
Yeah, go fail. Exactly.
Yeah.
Fail. And it's not failure if you learn from it, right?
Right.
But there's so many of these charlatans out there now. But then you look at them and you're like, okay, do they have a good marriage? They're rich. They drive a Ferrari. Cool. I'd love to have a Ferrari.
Are they happy?
But are they happy?
Are they content? I guess is the bigger question. They might be happy. But
sure.
Well, but are they going to be wanting more?
A lot of people, I'm not saying everybody, but there are a lot of people out there who fill holes with material. And not saying it's bad, and there are a lot of people that are out there that are spiritually happy.
Have nice things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so many people in the world chase money, chase material, which again are not bad things. They're inanimate objects, right? They cannot be bad. But then what they become is, idolatry for us. But these that's the big thing is like I quit looking at some of these sales mentors or business mentors that I was looking at a couple years ago because I was like, that's not a marriage I want. Their kids probably hate them because the way they're talking to everybody else, that's not the example of a father I want to be, And you start asking yourself those questions. It's like, are these guys really guys that I want to follow, or even look to as a role model, Yeah. Obviously you can pick things away from everybody that are good. But, having an idol or, a hero to look up to, look at the whole picture, right? Don't just look at the nice car they're driving or the Rolex on their arm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I often encourage kids to find a mentor, to find somebody that cares about who they are and then helping them figure out who they are too, and to develop that.
Yeah. Yeah. What is your thought on the philosophy of having a mentor, having somebody that's a peer, and then having a mentee as well? Yeah. I've heard that before, that every man needs those three things: solid peers to be around, a solid mentor, a few mentors, whatever, and then somebody that they're mentoring.
Pouring into as well, yeah.
Pouring into.
Yeah.
What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I agree.
Simply put, yeah.
Yeah, and I do. I mean, I'm 45, but I'm still looking for people, and I have a mentor, and I have somebody that I look to that I ask questions for and from, and then I obviously have my brothers that I spend time with, and going to be hanging out with tonight and helping him work on his deck, and
that's cool.
Our families spend time together, and then love pouring into other people as well, whether it's my peers or it's also the students I'm hanging out with, and just helping them figure out some things in their life that hopefully will allow them to avoid some of the mistakes I made, or just reach a place in their life where they've got humility and
humility is a big thing that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah, because we're all selfish.
Yeah,
too, and we want to prove ourselves, and so we're always trying to either build ourselves up, but when we get to the point where we're able to be so happy for the other person, and we don't have to feel jealous or envious or wish that we had what they have, which I guess is the definition of envy, but or jealousy. Words.
Yeah, one of those.
I guess the big word is contentment. I feel like that keeps coming up in this, but just being able to be okay with who you are,
be
and
content,
what you have, and where you're going, and if you're not okay with it, then what can you do to change to really to find those things?
John North brought that up. His red circle kind of signifies love your life or change it, and I think we can get caught up in doing that for selfish reasons. I don't think, love your life or change it. Okay, well, I think if we're looking at it from a social media point of view, you're looking at everybody's good life. You hate your life because you live in the middle of Indiana and you're going to school and doing this and doing that. Those people are probably doing those things too. But, so that, I don't know, like it's hard to look at, but I think if you can put a spiritual lens on that, and go love your life or change it. Okay, well, what don't you love about your life? Well, if you don't love what you're doing career-wise, right, or how you're serving people, well, what are you passionate about? And I think that there's a lot of people that harp on finding your passion, but I think when you can marry, like you said, marry the business end with something you're passionate about, you can scale that passion a lot further and do more with it, reach more people, serve more people, but also provide for yourself in doing that. That's what's so cool about capitalism. Capitalism can be bad, but it also can be great when it's utilized the way it should be. You serve people, you serve them well, you're able to provide for your family, And when you can get away from the greed and the connection to, I gotta make this sale so I can go buy that Rolex. I gotta make this sale so I can go get my fancy car, whatever. And you can shift those thoughts to what can I do to help other people with this, or how can I serve my family better, or how can I give other people experiences. that's when that success usually takes off.
Mm-hmm.
And then that defines, then there you go. There's a definition of success. But what would you say the definition of success is?
I would say being content with who you are, who God created you to be, and once you kind of figure that piece out, and then pouring into other people too, just being others driven and focused and not always just thinking about yourself. When you can do more of that, then I feel like you're being successful in life, because with that comes memories, with that comes relationship, with that comes more than money could ever provide. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Well, when you can, that's excuse me. When you're able to be content, the money doesn't matter, right? And it usually, God usually provides.
Yeah.
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 That's cool.
So with that comes trust,
mm-hmm.
and comes there's so much unknown in life that when you're able to kind of let go of your own agenda and just believe in something that's bigger than you, and oftentimes if you look back, life has so many challenges. I've had some tough stuff happen in my life, but even in the tough stuff, the bad things, I was able to grow.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to mature. I was able to change into the better person that I am today. And I was hanging with one of the students this week. Was the coolest things I've heard in a long time. She was saying how she always does math in pen, and so she wrote a whole paper on it. And I think she labeled
math
it
in pen.
Right. Well, no, it was like I believe in ink or something like that.
Okay.
And her point was, I'm not afraid of my mistakes. I'm not afraid of showing that I didn't do something right the first time. I'm going to cross through it and I'm going to move on. And then you can see the progression and the growth that happens in life that way. And that's, she's just talking about math.
That's cool.
I love that visual.
Mm-hmm.
And you're also, there's something to that you're committed to, being bold and
making mistakes.
Yeah. And that's okay.
That's a cool analogy. So do life in pen, right? Just that is cool, because in order to do that, you got to scratch out what you did,
mm-hmm.
and then move forward on the paper.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. I like that.
Shout out to Marley.
Love it. Yeah. That's cool. So what's been the biggest adversity you've had in your life?
That's a good question. So adversity are probably the tougher things I've had to deal with. My oldest son being diagnosed with diabetes when he was 3. Mm-hmm. He's just about to graduate next week, which I probably should not talk about too much, because then I'll start to cry. That was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big hit. And then I think also another tough part of life was when things didn't work out with Young Life, and really feeling like that's where God had me, but yet at the same time, it's been a year since that fell apart, but we've seen God work in some amazing ways.
Mm-hmm.
And
what came from that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now you got base camp.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to reach more kids and, in
a different way.
In a different way. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Do you guys plan to scale base camp kind of similar to Young Life, or what's the goal there?
The goal is to be diligent with what we have in front of us right now. If God wants to take it global like Young Life, great. But
mm-hmm.
We just want to serve and do well with what we have right in front of us right now. And I'm not great at numbers. I'm not a numbers person, both math or I don't count the number of kids that come.
Okay.
Because deep down, whoever's there is supposed to be there, I feel like. And
So I want to ask the same question, but I want to ask it towards two different things. What legacy do you want to leave? But then what legacy do you want base camp to leave?
For me personally, I want my wife and my kids to know that they were well loved and that I lived my life for them. Yeah. And then after that, I think that they also would know that I lived my life for God, that I didn't just, it really ultimately isn't about me. It's that believing that He created me for a reason and for a purpose, and that I am doing my best to live into that, to fulfill that. And my life verse, and the verse I was named after was Micah 6:8, which is that God has shown you what is good and what he asks of you, to walk humbly, to act justly, and I'm saying it backwards. I always have to sing the song, but I'm not going to sing it right now.
You sure you don't want to sing it for us?
Yeah. Act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. And so I appreciate that my parents gave me that verse, because it's given me something to kind of put up on the wall to look towards, to a guide, so to speak. And so that's my legacy, that people personally would know by experiencing life with me. Hopefully they got to see a little bit of God as well.
That's cool.
Feel His love. And so then that's the same, I suppose, also for base camp, that kids would get to do that themselves, that they get to figure out who they are and where they're going and how God wants to use them in whatever path that they take.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
Thanks.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Base camp is, I love what it's about, and we need more of that in our society today, in our culture today. We have a lot of absent fathers, even that may be in the household. And it's important for young men and just young kids in general to have, a father figure, a mother figure in the household who's intentional with them and not getting distracted by, it's hard. It's hard not to be distracted, especially when you are working full time, right? But I think that that's really cool, because you guys are teaching these kids what, a father may not. So keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Keep growing it. Let us know what we can do to help.
I appreciate it.
It's a great mission.
Yeah, and we want, and I think something that is important is that the dads that are out there that maybe, whether they're doing this or not, how, and I think it just kind of dawned on me as a ministry, how can we empower those parents to be able to invest in their kids' lives and experience some of these things with their kids. And so
I think a big part of that is just slowing down, and being in the Word.
Being aware, too.
The Word gives you a lot of wisdom on how to father and how to mother and how to be somebody who lives for God, lives for your family, lives for other people, and dies to self, right? And that's what we're called to do. So, I think that what would be your number one piece of advice to fathers or parents out there in general?
It's pretty much what you just said, is that the quicker that you can get your own agenda out of your brain, so to speak. And I'll never forget when I used to have to get up in the middle of the night with my kids and being so frustrated that I was losing sleep. And then when it dawned on me one night, I get a chance to be with my kid right now. They need me right now. This is my role. And I was then able to cherish those moments, even though I was maybe tired the next day. It was no longer about me, it was about them in that moment. And so I think the quicker that all of us as parents and people in general, that we can just get to the place where our life isn't about us, but it's about the ones that are around us, that others feel better about themselves, and that they also, and then in turn can do that for other people as well. And,
CEO of Tom James, Todd Brown, I went to high school with his boys and had a couple of years working underneath him, which was really cool. He poured into me, and one of the things he said, is take focus off yourself, put it onto other people. And he goes, in doing that, you're not worried about your purpose anymore. You're not worried about being happy. And what's interesting is you find purpose and you find happiness when you take that focus off yourself.
Yeah.
The more and more, you know, when I was a little bit younger, that I focused on what's my purpose, the more unhappy I was. And the more I'm like, man, I'm not doing what God designed me to do, whatever that is. I didn't even know what it was. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I followed what he was just guiding me to do, and part of that was buying a gym.
Yeah.
And then, you know, focused on, like, let me just serve people. Let me serve my clients. Let me serve my members. Let me serve my family first of all. Let me serve the people that I get to work with every day. You know, it's so cool because, as you said, like, you don't get burned out when you're doing what you're wired to do. Mm-hmm. And that changes. You know, it changes generationally. It changes, you know, over the years, you know. But, yeah, it's a hard thing to figure out.
Yeah.
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 So where can people find out more about you, more about Basecamp, reach out to you if they have questions about stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So the student website that we have is basecamp2911.com.
And what's the 2911 again, just for everybody?
From Jeremiah 29:11.
Yeah. And what's that verse one more time?
It is great. So you can put me on the spot.
Sorry.
It's you know, God's given you a hope and a future that He has plans for you, and not to harm you, but to really give you life. And that's me paraphrasing it. So yeah, that's the student one, and then the men's one is basecamp.rocks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I think contact information's on both of those.
On both of those. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, guys, if you got questions for Micah about Basecamp, about parenthood, about any of the things, reach out to him. I'm sure he'll hit you back. So appreciate you guys listening today. If you haven't done it yet, go like, follow, subscribe, all the things, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Micah.
Yeah.
Talk soon.